Welcome to Psyber Conversations, the show where it's okay to agree to disagree. My name's Josh, and today I am joined by Bob, Heather, Matthew, and today we're also joined by Darren, and a friend of mine for forever. Today we're talking about Captain America Civil War, which came out in 2016, and boy, do I have a lot to talk about with this movie, because I love this movie, and at the same time, this movie, oh man, it ticks me off. So I think we're going to have a lot to talk about today. So I suppose that's what I say about the movie is I love it, but like it gets on my nerves too.
I want to know why it gets on your nerves.
Because
should we just jump right into that? You opened with it, so you want to talk about it.
Well, I have a lot to talk about, like I said, this whole movie, because there's so much about it that I love too, and I don't want to skip over that. But at the same time, the story, the Baron's, or not Baron, what's his name? Zemo. What is he, a general in this movie?
No, he's just, well, in the comic book, I believe he's Baron Zemo.
He was Baron Zemo, but I don't know. In this movie, I think
he doesn't
have a title.
Yeah. But Zemo's plan is nonsense, and it makes it's really ridiculous, and it upsets me because I know Marvel movies are better than this. And I don't know what they were thinking, because his plan makes no freaking sense and should not have worked the way it did, except for blind luck for about half of it. And I don't know, that upsets me.
I agree with that. I didn't notice it on the first watch or any rewatch until this one. I'm like, this shouldn't have worked the way it did.
Yeah.
And it's the same way when you watch like Skyfall. It's like Silva's plan shouldn't have worked. It's all for plot convenience. But I mean, it makes for an entertaining movie.
Oh yeah.
So
that's why I say I love this movie.
I was much more interested in the debate that was going on among the Avengers than whatever this bad guy and his name was.
Oh yeah.
So
that's also important. That's also important.
Like the background as to why any of this was happening didn't matter one bit. I enjoyed the movie for the debate on, the right and the wrong about everything.
Well, not for nothing. For those of you who don't know, I was a teacher, substitute teacher for several years. This was it was right around the time this movie came out. So 2016. And one of the things that I would talk to the students about when I was talking to like students between 5th grade and somewhere in middle school, maybe early high school, if we talked about any kind of debate at all, I would bring up the story in this movie, or before this movie came out, talking about the Civil War in the comics, which this movie was based on. They didn't have the Sokovia Accords. There was the Superhero Registration Act, but same premise. And I did ask students, like, whose side are you on? What do you think? Is there too much policing with this, or do you think that this oversight is necessary? And every time students would talk about it, and there was always something to say for the opposite side, because both sides are right. We also talked about the Mutant Registration Act, which is in X-Men, but also the same thing. I remember once talking to the students, and they were like, well, yeah, oversight is absolutely necessary. And I was like, yeah, but the X-Men are good guys. We know they're good guys. And if we have oversight, they won't be able to do their job. And they said, you're right. We should let all mutants have free reign. And then I said, yeah, but what about Kitty Pryde? This is a girl who can walk through walls. So what's to stop her from going into someone's house and taking all of their stuff? So, and the students would go back
because she said she wouldn't.
Right.
But
I mean, talking to students, this was an interesting, completely fascinating topic, because there is no right. Both answers are right. Arguably they do need oversight. But at the same time, I agree with Captain America when he said, we may not be perfect, but the safest hands are still our own.
Can I make a comment about the both arguments are right? And I think what can be discerned to determine which one is more right than the other is context, but also the question of how far is too far, in terms of like, okay, she can walk through walls. She could do these things, but if she were to do X, Y, or Z, what would be too far, and what would step on other people? And then what would be the appropriate or measured response given what she did that was a grievance. And that's in Civil War here, that's what I saw as a core point or aspect that almost every single character had, was they feel wronged. They're under an emotional strain. They they feel they've been wronged. Their family members have been killed, so on and so forth. And every one of them is taking an action they feel justified to take. Zemo is taking it the furthest and saying, well, it doesn't matter who gets hurt in the wake of my justice or my retribution. And then other characters have different responses that are below that, where they're considering to some degree the rights of other people. Both Rosses just want power. They just want control, and they know they can't get it directly from, or they can't force it out of the Avengers, so they have to manipulate them to control themselves in a very similar way that Zemo knows that he can't go up against the Avengers directly, so he's using the Avengers against each other in almost the same way that Ross and the Accords are trying to do.
Yeah,
So.
I feel like that. I thought it was funny because I thought it was a little bit contrived. I know I'm kind of giving it away. Yeah, but it's like in Iron Man 2, it starts off with Tony going before, and they're like, oh yeah, we want to, they want to be able to control the Iron Man, and he has like a cow about it, and he's like, you can't have that because that'd be indentured servitude. And yet in this one, it's like, yeah, here you go, control me. Is the way I saw it. And it was like,
I recognize that he was going through a period of guilt, especially after being the mother of the person that got killed. Yeah. I think that each one of them had to wrestle with, the collateral damage that they may have personally caused others. And I think that is it is a good question. We go through all these movies before this, like you just see destruction and nobody thinks anything of it. So I think this is, it was important to kind of have that discussion, like, what is the cost of the work that we do? So I appreciated that each one had to wrestle with that in their own way. And, but yeah, I agree. Like the irony of Tony Stark from the previous movie, really fighting that to accepting that, was definitely a switch.
I don't know if this, sorry.
No, go ahead, Josh.
Well, I don't know if this had anything to do with it when they were writing it, because I don't know when they began writing this movie, but the timing seems about right. A lot of people were complaining in 2013 when Man of Steel came out that they didn't like how much collateral damage was. And it was something where people started thinking about, here's a superhero who causes massive damage and no one, this was framed after the Avengers came out, and there was massive damage in that too. But people were thinking it's Superman. He wouldn't allow all this collateral damage. He wouldn't allow people to die. And in this movie, Man of Steel, he did. So I think people were starting to think about collateral damage. And it's possible that the writers of this movie were thinking about that too and saying, well, that actually makes sense. The screenplay was written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, and maybe they had already heard about the argument going on about collateral damage. And they said, well, this makes it perfect. We'll make a movie about the world wanting to create laws to prevent that kind of collateral damage. And this movie kind of addresses it. So,
yeah. So that brings me up to this. And I just kind of want to get this from everybody is who, we'll do this Twilight style, Team Jacob, Team Edward. So who's Team Captain America and who's on Team Iron Man? And we talked about how a couple of you guys mentioned how it was like, oh, I can see it from this side, but I can see it from this side. So is anybody, Team Iron Man, I would say, would be motivated by guilt. I mean, let's be real. It was all Tony's fault that we had Age of Ultron. I mean, it's really the Avengers. And then, he wants that structure and accountability. And then you got Team Captain America, trust, personal freedom, doesn't trust government agendas, doesn't trust anybody's agenda, really. Is that a noble or stubborn? Like, where do you guys fall? Like, let's say it was you and they are like, hey, here's the Sokovia Accords, Like, where would you guys fall? Team Cap or Team Instant Messenger? I mean, Iron Man. I am.
I definitely, like, without thinking about it, I'm automatically Captain America. But also, I would agree with what Cap had originally said when he was close to signing it. After the street chase in Germany, with the two pens, and he was talking about it, and he said there need to be amendments, there needs to be contingencies, and I think that the Accords might have been an okay idea if all of the Avengers went over them, more than just a cursory glance, and knew exactly what was going to be allowed and not allowed. Because otherwise, I do agree with Cap. The safest hands are their own. What if, as he said, what if we feel there's a place we need to go and the council doesn't let us? What if the council wants us to go somewhere that we don't think we need to go to?
Right.
So I for the most part, I'm Team Captain America.
Darren, you had something.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to say Team Cap, but with a question of, I mean, he was originally served in the military, which is basically follow orders.
Complete oversight. Yeah.
Complete oversight. No personal freedoms whatsoever.
Well, until he stood up and really took on the mantle of Captain America and did stuff against orders. I mean, that was
right.
That was a big shift in Captain America's story.
The Winter Soldier, he actually went against.
But yes, yeah, I know what you mean. He signed up to follow the government. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of going to be my point. Is there was a transitional moment where he had to recognize that what he was doing was more morally correct.
Well, yeah, he was just going to do what's right.
Yeah, but he had to accept.
Matthew's chomping at the bit back there. You're getting next. We'll get to you next, Matthew.
But everyone who's making decisions in this movie has to accept the consequences. Zemo's like, well, I'm just going to shoot myself because I don't care beyond this point. So everything I've done, I'm not going to take the consequences for. Yeah. And then everybody else, again, has different shades of that decision and ramifications to deal with. But yeah, Team Cap for me, because yes, there are laws and you do have to follow them, but there's a limit. And
Matthew, I want to hear what you have to say.
Movie points out that limit.
Well, I want to hear which side Heather falls on, because I know I'm in the minority here, and I'm about to tear Team Captain America to shreds. So go ahead, Heather.
Well, I can tell you this. So, for what it's worth, my daughter is also Team Iron Man. Yeah, my daughter is not here today, but she is definitely Team Iron Man.
You can't mention what Rachel wants or likes if she's not going to be on the show, dude. It's irrelevant.
Okay.
And I'm only saying that because I want her to come back on, because she's done one show and it was really good, and she was really good, and I just want her to be back on here. So anyway, Heather,
hey, Rachel.
You should be here, Rachel.
I am not sure I could pick a side as they are presented. So I know kind of like what you're saying, like, I think some oversight is needed, but the oversight that was presented in the movie and that Iron Man was willing to sign on to, I don't think was the right way to go about it. So again, the amended version maybe, but since we don't ever see what that might look like, is, it's kind of hard to say. But
so your Team Switzerland.
I think, a little Team Switzerland. I think that the collateral damage was a little out of hand. And I also think that there should be consensus from the Avengers themselves on what they were taking on, and not anybody working rogue or like three of them going off to do this kind of thing. To me, the idea of, if they truly were a collaborative team, would be what would rein in a lot of that collateral damage.
They did lose cohesion pretty dang quick without a let's talk about this internally. They didn't even seem to consider that.
Yeah, but
I
I
don't
think-
think
I
I don't
think-
think Captain America. I don't think Captain America even read the Accords. He just like flipped through it and was like, "No,
No.
I'm not going to totally sign this at all."
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, but that's because it's a movie.
All right.
Can't-
I really want to hear what Matthew has to say. I want
Watch a
Matthew. Go get it,
5-hour
Matthew.
Watch a
Everybody
5-hour
mute.
monologue.
I'm not gonna.
Everybody
Captain
mute
America
so Matthew
reading
can
it.
go
Go
back.
ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, I'm Team Iron Man. I've always been Team Iron Man. I think Iron Man's a more interesting character, and that may be why. But it also, when I watch this movie, I get really, really frustrated with Captain America. And on this rewatch of the MCU, I start to see how selfish Captain America is, even from his first movie. And that's the most apparent in this film. He puts Bucky above everyone else for whatever reason. In Winter Soldier, it makes sense, right? He hasn't seen him in 70 years at that point. But now that he knows he's alive, I mean, he still continues to make foolish decisions. Tony seems most level-headed. Granted, he's operating off of guilt to sign the Accords, but he's more level-headed than acting on pure emotion like Captain America is. And like we mentioned already, I mean, he's a soldier, right? He already signed himself over to the government back in the 40s during the largest global conflict in American history, and largely probably the world history. So I don't know. I see this topic come up a lot. Are you Team Iron Man or Team Cap? And on like
I'm Team
Instagram.
Natasha. I like
There
her
you go.
tip. She was like, I just want to not cause more damage right now, and if this is what we need to do right now. But then when it came down to it and she got more information, that's when she changed her opinion.
Right, but it's
So
also
I'm Team
like,
Natasha.
why can't Captain America just do that? Like, it's his movie, so he's gonna win no matter what because his name's on the marquee. It's if it was Iron Man Civil War, Iron Man would have won that fight at the end. So I don't understand why Captain America has to be the one to go get Bucky. Maybe in the stairwell fight scene when they go to kill him and then he saves him. But once he's in custody, he needs to back off. I mean, he's completely reckless throughout the entire film for the sake
Right.
of...
He's not admitting his own bias at that point. Now
Right.
he's just acting. Yeah.
Right.
Now,
And I
mean,
think it could
not
have made
for
more sense
nothing-
if others were incorporated into the decisions to, like, look, something is amiss and we need to actually investigate this, rather than his personal feelings leading the way.
right. And
But not for nothing, we know that Bucky didn't actually do what he was accused of.
sure.
So if it weren't for Captain America, he would have been killed. And as to what you said about, because he's a soldier and he's got to follow orders, but soldiers have a legal and ethical duty to refuse
Mhm.
unlawful orders, which are defined as commands that violate the Constitution, U.S. law, or international laws of war.
But Captain America constantly puts himself above the law in every situation that he's in because he's Captain America. And I know it's a movie and, we're supposed to have suspension of disbelief, but this one's pretty grounded and has a lot of depth. It also bugs me that up until this point, Tony saved pretty much everybody multiple times and continues to be an effective leader. And it bugs me that nobody would recognize that Tony obviously would amend the Accords after they've been signed. He just wanted everybody on the same page. And to even further my point, it's when Tony realizes that Bucky was framed, he's like, oh, I was wrong a little bit, and I'm going to go help Captain America sort this out. And then Cap goes ahead and stabs him in the back by omitting the fact that Bucky killed his parents. And
I don't know when.
Wait,
he would
how
have
is
told
that
him
how is
though.
that a stab? How is that a stab?
Yeah, I don't know if that would
Because
be a stab.
because
He never came up.
because he knew about it when Captain. Remember, he goes, "Did you know?"
Yeah, Cap
You
know?
tells he knew, but when were they talking about this? When was Cap supposed to tell him?
Yeah,
And-
when would that have de-escalated the situation? Never.
Yeah.
So
and it's also hard, just from an outsider's. We're not Tony. I can understand why Tony would be upset, but at the same time, we as an audience know that Bucky was not doing it of his own accord. He was forced to obey. He was, he even said when Captain America tells him, that wasn't you that was doing it, and he said, "I know,
But I did it.
but I did it."
yeah, and that's where the morally gray area comes in for me. And I do feel for Bucky because he's not in his own mind when he's doing those actions. But at the same time, he was in full custody. I know Zemo gets to him in the movie, which is ridiculous. But besides that fact, it's why did Cap have to be the one to take care of Bucky? Like, I don't get it.
Well, in Germany, Captain America had Steve had a good point when he said, "I'm the only person who can do it and not die."
I find that to be ridiculous. I don't know.
When Bucky's in that brainwashed state,
Sure.
Cap was the only one that could reach him because of that ancient history, right?
Yeah, and that makes sense. But it's just, I don't know. Repeatedly, Captain America is like, nope, it's got to be me, and I just can't agree with. That's when it goes too far for me. It's like,
What do you think T'Challa should have been the one?
No. He was already in custody when they take him in Germany, and then I don't know. It just granted it falls apart because of Zemo, but it's like Captain America has him. Yeah, he has him again. If Captain America is the good and righteous man that we say he is and upholds everything and does what's right, he would take Bucky back to the government.
Right, and let justice work it out. Let the justice system work it out. Right.
Yeah, but that's because the reason he did, like, I would argue that if this was a real life situation, he might have done that.
Mhm.
But for this movie, he has to take him to Antarctica because that's the plan. Even though the plan makes no sense.
Yeah.
Zemo's plan doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever, but we got to do it.
Well, Siberia, not Antarctica, but okay.
Josh, you might be assuming that whatever we see Baron Zemo do is like his plan A. I suspect he's working off of bouncing between plan E and F and H, and like he's probably hopping and skipping and adapting like crazy, and we just don't see that.
It's still kind of a ridiculous plan.
Oh, it is ridiculous, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, he's
adjusting, is what I'm saying.
The first time we see him, and he's enacting his plan to get that that electromagnetic bomb, I guess is what it was. He's already putting that together, and breaking into the Russian guy's apartment to question him about the mission orders, the files, before the Sokovia Accords have even been announced. So there's no way he would know that all of them were going to be in the one place where he was going to be able to frame Bucky. And then, he didn't know that was going to happen.
Well, unless part of the unspoken story is he somehow had a hand in,
or he was just adjusting to the circumstances. Well, yes, he didn't know Bucky was going to be involved or directly involved, but he took advantage of it.
He took the opportunity once it happened. Yeah.
Well, he was also. I think the other thing with it too, he is Sokovian, so he knew there would be fallout. I mean, they say he was a special ops soldier from Sokovia. So I think the other major plot hole here with it is if Bucky didn't hear the code word for 2 years, and he didn't have the brain scramble for 2 years, why did they suddenly work? I think that was another major plot hole I wanted to point out.
Well,
that didn't make sense.
That's a sleeper thing. That's why they even reference in the movie the Manchurian Candidate. That's what that movie is about. A sleeper agent with
right, but
in that movie it was the Queen of Diamonds, I believe, that would trigger him.
But his brain hasn't been scrambled. I mean, I don't know. Every time they need him, they freeze him, and then they bring him, or they scramble him after he does his mission, and then they read the code words. It's like he's been 2 years, he's been free, he's been filling his brain with other stuff.
Yeah, you think he'd work out some sort of personal way to counteract, or at least he's not fully technically a Manchurian Candidate because he's fully aware in the present that he is being manipulated, has the potential to be manipulated.
Like,
yeah,
exactly. So that 2 years, he should have been working out some sort of la 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 la. I don't hear you. Some countermeasure.
Possibly, but he probably didn't think. He probably didn't think anyone was going to be able to know the words.
Right.
You have to know the words themselves and speak them in Russian.
Not only that, I imagine because he knows the things that he did, he was also, trying to stay under the radar and not
And he also didn't know that his files had been released. I mean, maybe he did because the files were released by Black Widow at the end of The Winter Soldier. But, they were all encrypted. And the only reason that Zemo was able to figure them out was because encryption was his business. That's what he did.
Right.
A lot of it was he was counting on security by obscurity, which, usually isn't the best policy.
Right.
Yeah.
I won't belabor the point, but I am Team Iron Man. I understand why Captain America wants to save his friend. I would save my friend. But at the same time, there's a justice system in place for a reason. I'd make sure my friend doesn't die, but once he's in the proper hands and assuming that this person is safe, I would,
So you're
logically, you would have to sign the accords. Logically.
So you're situationally Iron Man and Cap, just depends on how far it goes.
No,
right?
because Captain America is a villain in his own movie, and they paint him to be right, and that bugs me. So I'm Iron Man through and through.
I don't think he's a villain at all.
They definitely lowered his status as like the purely moral one, though.
Yeah,
I think this movie definitely raises Tony Stark in morality and lowers Cap. I think there is a shift, because every movie before you get like the arrogant Iron Man, even when he went through his PTSD movie, like he still had the ego and the arrogance and a little bit of disregard for the little guy, right? And Cap is like, wants to always do the right thing. And I think this one shifted those views just a bit. Cap still wants to do the right thing, but now it's like,
but the right thing at what cost? I mean, now
right.
Neither side is 100%. Neither side is 100% also think, right. But I don't know. I think Iron Man is more right. So
I also think that Captain America is informed a little bit by the speech that he heard during the eulogy for Peggy Carter. Just like Tony Stark was motivated by talking to Charles Spencer's mother, Cap was thinking about the words Peggy Carter said, which I won't quote the entire thing here. You all know it, but compromise where you can, where you can't, don't, et cetera, et cetera. I love that quote.
He just wanted to keep the door open with Sharon. That's what it was. Let's get real. Let's get real.
That's a whole weird thing. That is a very weird thing to me. I mean,
what, Cap and Sharon?
Yeah.
After Cap and Peggy, yes, Cap and Sharon is very weird.
I understand
There's generational differences going on, even though it doesn't seem like it. But yes, anyway, that's a separate
I understand. I've heard the argument. A lot of people think it's weird. I agree. Like seeing it, it's a little bit weird, but I also will note it is directly out of the comics.
I had to remind myself in the moment. No, it's her niece, not her granddaughter, because that would be even weirder. But it's that kind of moment that I had.
The niece, and it was out of the comics. And at this point, I'm sure Captain America didn't know, but probably the writers didn't even know that he was going to have a second chance with Peggy Carter. So as far as he was concerned, this is it. Make your life here and now. Peggy's gone.
Oh yeah. It is. And
there, of course, there are millions of women.
One of her descendant relatives of tangentially kind of thing is.
Yeah, and I do understand and even agree to a point. It is a little bit weird, but at the same time, like I said, it is directly out of the comics. So weird or not, I understand the precedent.
Everybody's emotionally motivated here. Nobody is being presented as completely logical, even if they're talking about accords and diplomacy and this and that. Everyone is being driven just under the surface by very, very strong emotions and guilt and regrets and
their history and their own biases, of course, like their own life experiences, whatever that's any one of us, our opinions in this moment are formed by our past. And before we very forget, relatable. Yeah.
And before we forget, and before we move on to a different topic, I noticed that Bob is being uncharacteristically non-hyperverbal. What is your opinion?
I think that it's interesting. I guess I'm still sort of team Captain America. I don't know. After watching it again, I was like, I liked it when it first came out. I'm not trying to go down that road. I'm trying to say this as an explanation for what I'm thinking. I'm still kind of team Captain America, but at the same time, I'm kind of team Iron Man. And I can't remember who said it one of you guys said, was it's like they could have amended the Accords. Even Tony says that. And it's like, yeah, if they had sat down and like hashed it out, I mean, the way it was framed, I feel like, which by the way, we mentioned when we did the Incredible Hulk episode, we talked about how much the Incredible Hulk carries into it. And here we have Ross back. Anyway, you know, it's almost like you didn't get a choice. You just need to sign these things and there's no discussion. And that's that type of thing. And I was like, but, you know, there's the scene with, you know, where you meet Black Panther for the first time with his dad. And it's like, hey, you know, Agent Romanoff, thanks for showing up, blah, 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 blah. It's like they were having a meeting about it and what they were going to do and that type of thing. So, I can't remember.
Well, they were just going to ratify it.
Well, yeah, but like I said, I think the movie framed it that it was like, hey, it's this or nothing. There's no discussion. You guys.
There was a little all or nothing. It was like you sign this or you retire. You know. Like,
yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much what they
it was
said.
a bit.
So,
you know,
if I look at it
ultimatum.
from that perspective, I kind of got to go Team Captain America, just from the perspective of there was no movement. And I think that's what drove Captain America was it's like, you know, I don't want, again, we already mentioned the line of like, what if we need to go somewhere and they won't let us go? Or what if they send us somewhere and we shouldn't be there?
Don't think that, yeah.
That's a moot point though, because they would just do it anyway. If they're so good, they would just say, F the Accords, we're going to go to this place.
Well, then they'd be arrested.
I was thinking that.
Yeah,
too.
but they'd be like,
okay,
you can't arrest all of us, you know?
Yeah.
It would just, I don't know. I think
but I mean, like, that's the thing. If he had signed them,
like I said, Team Natasha.
If Cap had just signed them and gone along with it, then within 5 minutes, they would have all been arrested.
Yeah,
you know?
but
they see a cat that's stuck in a tree and they stop to help it. And the council says, no, you weren't supposed to do that. Now you're being
some of them to sign it, then they have the muscle to actually do the arresting, because who would have arrested them if none of them signed it? Who had that capacity? The only reason that any of them got arrested is because the ones who signed it said, you're now a criminal, right?
Yeah.
And the government knew that they couldn't do it without superheroes had to arrest superheroes. They couldn't do it any other way.
And again, I appreciate the need for some guardrails and all the collateral damage and all of that. It was a matter of what does that look like, and I don't think it was discussed long enough. And it was put to an ultimatum: you sign this or you retire, and that's it.
My final point is that Vision, who has a literal Infinity Stone in his head and is the Mind Stone, so ultimate thought processing there, sides with Iron Man. So I will just put that out there.
That's and plus he can lift Thor's hammer. So something. But
he's also compromised. His judgment is compromised by his feelings towards the Scarlet Witch.
That just means he's growing. It's like watching your Chat GPT bot grow.
He even said he doesn't completely.
But the danger of putting the safety in the hands.
He's hallucinating. That's what's happening.
The AI. I don't know.
But the thing is, he even admits he doesn't understand the Mind Stone. He probably isn't completely in tune with it. So I don't know if he has infinite thought. He's thinking for himself.
But I don't know. The one that can hold an Infinity Stone sides with Iron Man. That's always my go-to. It's like, how are you going to argue against
Steve holds the hammer.
Yeah. Later.
Okay, but Thanos had all the Infinity.
So did the Vision, though.
Vision
had an Infinity Stone. So, I'll just say, and Iron Man held all the Infinity Stones. So,
and he sacrifices himself, so he's better.
But Thanos also, like, holding an Infinity Stone doesn't mean you know everything.
Yeah, all I'm saying is the Infinity Stones aren't really the measure of righteousness. Per se.
Now, on the other hand, if you wanted to talk about Mjolnir, Steve Rogers held it, but then again, so did Vision.
Yeah. So I don't know. Nobody's 100% right. So
which is what we said.
I like.
You know what? We're gonna agree. We'll agree to disagree.
Vision at least tried to be balanced in the discussion and tried to not bring emotion into it, which was what I appreciated about Vision's input. He tried to be, more methodical and calculated and less emotion, less bias coming into the argument.
But
when they first sat around talking about it, he tried to be the measured voice in the room.
But he did end up having to take a side, when
he had
Wanda,
But he's also doing it. He's also
No, go
doing
ahead.
it for a very emotional reason. And that's what sentient, I mean, he's being portrayed as human-ish. So he's acting in human ways, written obviously by human writers, but he is acting, he's making decisions based on emotion, and then he is retroactively creating a rationale around it to justify
I don't
what he's
know.
doing, just like everybody else is doing.
Well,
Yeah.
something that I find
You know.
funny is that Vision's little analysis. He says, "I have a." What do you say? I have a theory, or well, whatever he says. He then
his
talks
Yoda
about
monologue, you know?
yeah. He's basically saying how the villains have been commensurately, more
Increasing,
able to,
yeah.
increasing in power to answer the Avengers, and he's saying there may be a causality. That was his
Right.
argument, and I'm like, how does that pick a side? You're telling us something that we already know, and it's not taking either side. It's just saying, oh, okay, so the villains are getting stronger. Okay, thanks. What side?
Yeah, he went from playing a devil's advocate-esque, trying to be neutral, to like, yeah, I got to pick a side too. But I wanted to kind of what? Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say we could end up talking about this for the entire. We could make a 3-hour show just talking about whether or not we're Team Iron Man or
Yeah,
Captain America.
right.
Can
So,
I offer? Can I? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, can I offer? If we're going to make a subject change, one of the most important things in this entire movie is we have to discuss
Red
why that. Well, yeah, that too. Very cool, cute character. But no, I was going to say, why did Rhodey's armor not have some sort of airbag, foam, parachute, anything
Aw, yeah.
at all?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Aw.
Because the plot demanded it. That's why.
I was
So-
joking
so-
about Red Wing. I mean, I think that it's cool that they threw it in there, but
It's a good quip, I think.
in the comics, Red Wing is an actual falcon,
bird.
and
Yeah.
it would be weird putting that in there. So instead, they got a robot drone thing.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up that we got two big characters in this one. We got Black Panther.
Well, we got
You
three.
mean intros? New intro character intros?
Right, yeah, we got
yeah.
kind of three. I was going to say kind of
Zemo.
2.5, maybe 2. Yeah, we got Zemo, which we kind of talked about, and I had a whole section on him, but we all were kind of like talking about how implausible his whole plan was. So I don't
We
even wanna
barely
go-
scratched the surface on that.
Oh, you want to go into
We'll get-
Zemo now? Then I was skipping that.
Yeah, we could
to
talk.
jump
Yeah, we
to-
could.
I still hope he
can
comes
talk about him
back for
later.
sure.
Oh yeah, he does.
Um,
Again, in the shows.
Yeah, and the
We'll
shows
talk
he does.
about
But
that.
I was going to talk about, but I think the biggest part of it at all was the Spider-Man reveal
And Black Panther.
Mhm.
Yeah,
and Black Panther. And then, I had a note there on the Giant Man reveal. That's my quarter,
Yeah.
the 2 1/4. Because we already had Ant-Man and he already showed that power. But wanted to get everybody's thoughts on the whole. I mean, because the Black Panther thing wove into this. I mean, it was a big driver for Black Panther, thinking that Bucky killed his dad and yada, yada, yada. So it
Mhm.
was more of a thing.
everyone
And
went
obviously
crazy in the theater. I was there opening day, of course, and the theater went crazy when T'Challa showed up for the first time.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Yeah, and then
Peter
Spider-Man.
and-
Spider-Man was the biggest.
And
Really
then
wanted-
Spider-Man again.
Yeah.
As soon as the word Queens showed up on the screen, it was pandemonium in the theater. And people were standing up and clapping and cheering. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Just because I knew what was happening, but I couldn't hear anything because people were talking over them. But it was in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Like it's so much fun to go to a movie on opening day to one of these movies. I don't know if it's the same if you go to see, I don't know.
Well, I saw Project Hail Mary recently, and everybody was like reacting in that. It's like, oh my gosh, and laughter. So it's always fun to go see.
I bet seeing a movie like Notting Hill on opening day would be just kind of ho hum. But
You know
would you
what?
go see that on opening
I
day?
love Notting Hill. I watch that at least 2 to 3 times a year. That's one of my all-time fave rom-coms. So
yeah, but I bet that the theater
I'd
wasn't
be
erupting
cheering.
in applause. Yeah.
I was erupting when I saw Notting Hill in the theater. I'm just kidding. I wasn't. It was a good movie, but I wanted to, so thoughts on, I'm sure we all, Spider-Man, how did we feel
Well,
about that?
I have a quick insert in regards to Scott and Peter in this movie as characters are ones that are not motivated to be involved by either guilt, loss, or revenge. They're the only ones that aren't.
That's an interesting
as far as and
yeah, that is
that's
is an
why
interesting
to me it's great that Spider-Man is in this movie, and for a whole host of behind the scenes real world reasons he is in this movie, but he doesn't need to be in this movie plot wise.
No,
Right,
but he needed to be in this movie because they finally got the go from Sony.
No, I know. Yeah,
to put him in. So it's
that's
like,
the
we gotta
real
put
world
him in
behind the
somewhere.
scenes. Yeah.
That's
They had to
like
use him. They had to use him,
Right.
and he's a great character in and of himself. But he doesn't fit in with the theme of what these other characters are going through and what they're motivated by.
No, it was all in the service of making a really cool fight scene that was evenly matched.
Fan service. I have a point on these two characters because there are times where I feel like this movie can feel overstuffed. Even if it was an Avengers movie, it can feel like a lot. This is a really dense movie. I love Black Panther in this movie. I think he's a top-notch character. I think this is probably his best appearance in the MCU, even though we don't get that much of him outside of Infinity War in his own film. I like him the best in this movie. I love his suit. And he's just, you don't know much about him, so he's just really cool. And then Spider-Man, for being Marvel's most popular character, I feel like he was kind of shoehorned in. Not that we need to go through his own origin story for the third time. It just felt like, oh, here's Spider-Man. We'll briefly have a conversation for his origin story, which is fine. It just, I don't know. I know it was necessary because we get home. Is it Homecoming? Yeah,
Homecoming is coming soon.
Yeah. And I just feel like he deserved a little bit of a better introduction, at least in that first scene. In the airport scene, it's fine. I mean, he looks great. I wish his suit wasn't CGI. I thought that was stupid. But other than that,
I like the intro for Peter. I mean, maybe again, I'm biased because I was in a crowded theater opening day. Everyone was so ecstatic that it was hard not to feel enthusiastic.
Well, it was exciting. It's just on the rewatch. It's like, well, and this is the issue that I have with all the other Spider-Man movies is Tom Holland as a Peter Parker Spider-Man character has never been allowed to stand on his own 2 feet. He's always been overshadowed by Tony Stark in his first 2 movies, or the nostalgia factor with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in his 3rd movie. So I'm really excited.
He's
for
kind
Brand
of
New
treated
Day.
like a child in the he gets treated
That's
like
a
child
good
the
point.
most.
Brand New Day.
Even more
Brand
so
New
than
Day.
Wanda and like
But he's supposed to be too, because he was always like one of the youngest superheroes.
Sure, and that's fine in this movie, but Homecoming, that's the entire plot, is that, oh, well, you're a baby and we're going to treat you like such. And that bugs me so soon after the fact that we had a really mature, if not that great of a movie with Amazing Spider-Man 2. So, I don't know. I feel like
I actually
Spider-Man
love
deserved
that
better.
movie.
Well, I have to cut it off here. I hope that you've enjoyed our show so far. We will continue our discussion next week. In the meantime, if you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe. And as always, make tomorrow better than yesterday.